Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. We've helped thousands of people save time and make more money by improving their online stores. Check out patreon.com/the Resellers Podcast for thousands of hours of full-length ad-free podcasts and coaching calls. Join our Facebook group with thousands of sellers making the transition from hobby to business. See you in the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. Today, we're going to hit some really important topics on things that we think do work as a reseller. So we want to focus today on best practices. We got an email from one of the Patreon members, Hudson Resale, and they wanted us to review their store. And they're in a pretty healthy spot because they list 50 new a day and they sell 30. But today I just want to go over a few things that they were focusing on and let me know, sort of how you react on that. So number one, they said that they are concerned with the number of listings in their store. So right now they're growing 20 listings a day, listing 50, selling 30, and bigger store usually means more sales. Not always, but that's one of the things they're working on, growing their store.
Usually it does. If all things considered remain the same and you continue to upload the same exact type of items that you have historically, and you don't go out and change anything or buy brands that are less desirable, you can extrapolate it out to, it's the basic math on the traffic tab where you have your click-through and you have your conversion rate. So if your store essentially doubles in size of the same exact items, your sales, theoretically should pretty close double in size. But along with a larger store does come more sales, but there's also more things that you have to work through and keep in mind as well, such as, perhaps storage constraints, shipping constraints, different sort of problems that you have to work through and troubleshoot. So, in a perfect world, it does go in that direction where your store does get larger and you do sell more items over time. But there are other complications that go with that as well.
So the second thing they put is they're focusing on listing 50 new items 365 days a year. This is a husband-wife team. So the first thing was have more listings. The second thing was the 50 new items daily. We just talked about if you're selling half of your items or more and doubling your money, then you're positive cash flow. If you sell more than half and you're not going to be negative cash flow, you'll be operating in the business's profit if you sell more than half.
Yeah, and I think that to get to this level of 50 items per day being listed,
yep.
A lot of people, they start 5 a day, 10 a day, 15 a day, 20 a day. And when they expand, a lot of people expand downwards. Like they start buying brands that are less desirable, have lower profit, have a slower sell through, rather than just expanding sideways. So we talk about it all the time. My store is 50,000 items, but it's essentially a beginner 1,000 item store, just duplicated 50,000 times or 50 times. So I've just moved sideways 50 times the same store over and over again. And if you do that, you're able to make sure that you're selling an item, you're getting back your original investment. You have enough money to go out and buy an additional item. So now it's 2 for 1. You have enough money to put to the side, and then you have enough money to pay eBay's fees and whatever else overhead is involved. But when a lot of people scale, they scale kind of downwards too quickly. And I don't know if that is a reason because they haven't taken the time to seek the knowledge to actually find those brands that can continue to get them a very good return on investment, so they continue to build their business, safely, successfully, and profitably. Or they just settle and say, I'm okay with buying, the lesser brands like, Van Heusen or George or things like that. But that complicates a lot of things because you don't have that margin that you just referred to where you can sell items, double your money, remain profitable, and then continue to go out and buy more items.
So this is interesting. If I do the math, this year they've been listing 50 a day. This is husband and wife, 2 people. The year before they did 30 a day. And the first year they did between 15 and 20 a day. So I don't know if in the beginning one of them had a full-time job or what their family situation was before, but that's a very reasonable growth
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable, natural progression. And the biggest thing that helps this couple who are running this business is that they know what their listing goal is. It's 50 per day. So they buy 50 pieces a day. They buy 350 pieces per week. They're not out buying 500 pieces, 600 pieces with a 350 a week listing goal. And I don't know why it's more complicated than it seems, but when you sell 50 items, you get your original investment back of the 50 items dollar wise. All you're doing is just replacing your cogs every single day, and you're just keeping your buying consistent, and everything above your original cogs that you have to reinvest back into the next day, that goes into your bank. So like in the simplest forms of doing eBay, you get your cogs back every day. You go back out tomorrow, simply replace what you sold cogs wise, dollar wise, and every single dollar above that is your profit goes into the bank. Like in the simplest essence of eBay, that's what it is. You just replace your cogs every single day with 50 more of the same type of items. And if you do that and you don't go out and, list 50, sell 30, buy 75, list 50, buy 102, list 50, buy 88. Like that's the part where people run into trouble. If you could be disciplined to just simply get back your investment every single day and just spend your investment every single day, not a penny more. Every single dollar above that is your profit, and you can remain highly profitable eBay business. And that's like the only rule that we have to abide to. Most people shop themselves out of business, and they've been very disciplined. Like you said, 15, 30, 50. That's a very natural, progressive growth. Wasn't anything extreme. And by doing it like that, it allows your sales to catch up, especially if you do list that amount of items over the long term, maybe 1 year, 1 year and a half. And you're just simply replacing your cogs every single day, and everything off the top goes into your bank account. It's not a risk to go from 30 to 50. It's no problem.
So Christina's asking, this is a really good question. Can you explain why getting rid of your lower or non-performing items improves your sell-through rate? So let's say that you have 100 items in your store and you sell 10. That's a 10% sell-through rate. If you were to eliminate 50 of the items, the lowest performing ones that may never sell, or then maybe you picked up mistakes in the beginning and you only had 50 items, and then you still had the same 10 sales, that's a 20% sell-through rate. So you just doubled your sell-through rate by eliminating non-performing items. And this is something I did when I did the Reseller Nirvana store. The beginning items didn't, I sold them for whatever the market would yield. Not always were they doubling my money or tripling my money. Sometimes they're just making $1 or $2. But essentially, I'm teaching eBay that my sell-through rate is going to be high. If you list 10 items and sell all 10 every single month, eBay is going to estimate that the new listings you put up fall into a that percentage. If you keep listing items that don't sell, they're going to assume your future items don't sell. That's why it's so dangerous to not fix your store, because it keeps trending down over time.
Right. So in addition to that, every single listing gets a score by eBay based on the people that click on it and convert, or the people that click on it and leave. The ones that click on it and leave is telling eBay it's a robot, it's a machine. You aren't able to have a conversation with them or convince them. It's just a robot. The people who click on it and leave is telling eBay there's something wrong with this listing. So for whatever reason, they cannot pay to put that item in front of a lot of people, because for whatever reason, the data that you've input, those customers that they're presenting it to don't want that item. So they need to reshuffle it and put it somewhere else. So on an individual listing basis, every single listing has a grade. Store wide, your entire store has a grade as well. And, eBay places listings in a couple different categories. One of them is stagnant, one of them is stale. And if you have a lot of stagnant listings, if you have a lot of stale listings, your overall store grade diminishes or goes down. And eBay doesn't have as much confidence in you to keep displaying all of your items in very prominent search areas, because the customers have already told them that these items are no good. They're either overpriced, they're not desirable, no one's clicking on them, there's an error, they're priced above market. There's some sort of reason why buyers are not buying these items. And if the majority of your items, or a good amount of your items, eBay has considered stale or stagnant because they've been listed for too long, that drags down your entire store. So like everyone's, number one priority should be concentrating on converting the eyeballs that do go on your listing. And usually the number one way to convert the buyers after accurately describing the item is simply price. Make the item so enticing that the buyer believes they're getting such value that they have no choice but to purchase the item. And if you can maintain, a fast sell through, very high click through rates, eBay will reward you with a lot of traffic, because eBay wants to sell items. They don't want to bring buyers to the platform to look at items that for whatever reason they don't want, and then those buyers end up shopping somewhere else or leave the platform without purchasing. So if you can accurately describe your desirable items and price them at a price where a buyer clicks on it and they have to buy it, the more times you could do that inside of your store, the better overall store grade you're going to be, and you will see that bump in the search rank, which will result in more sales.
So I'm going to switch gears just a tiny bit, because you had mentioned, I can't remember the exact context, but somebody asked you, like, what is one of the most important parts of being a reseller? And I think you said know your numbers. And I want to share the numbers that Hudson Resale shared with us. So those of you that are listening to this podcast on YouTube, you won't be able to see it, but those of you that are listening live in the Patreon right now, you'll be able to look at how many numbers this couple tracks. And it's a lot. They track total sales, the tax that they pay. And the reason why I recommend that people do that is so they learn how their shipping or how their eBay fees are calculated. So if you calculate the taxes and fees, you get an idea of where your eBay fees come down. They broke down eBay, shipping, how many items they sold per day, what their average sold price is, all of their expenses, the expense ratio, how much their daily sales are. And you can see here, this is interesting. Their sales are down in August versus the second quarter, but that's to be expected. So at the bottom, they actually do year over year. And look at that. They're up year over year, even though this year is a recession.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only are they up year over year, they're up heavily year over year. And, some of those months are up 112%. Last month, they were only up 28%. And if you give, any real world business a 28% increase year over year, they would be ecstatic through the moon. So, they're doing an excellent job. And this is probably something that everybody should strive to keep track of, because it will really give you a grasp on your business. And the number one thing, the most important thing on this sheet, what would you say is the most important thing on this sheet?
I like most important part. I guess I don't see total profit on here, which is very important. But I think that the part that is most eye-catching to me is the total expenses. But
expenses, that's it. If you don't know your expenses, that's when you run yourself out of business. Because if you don't know your expenses, there's no governor on when to stop spending.
Yep. So, okay, look how scary this is, because in August, they're having a down month, which is this month, kind of. July and August were lower than the other months. And you can see their expenses for this month are really high. So maybe they bought a little extra stuff this month. And also it was a slow sales month. So that's a recipe for high stress. And you can see they're spending almost twice as much as they were at the beginning of the year. Very easy for that to go up.
Sure. And it's not a boogeyman that July and August were down. That's natural. That happens. But if you look at the chart year over year, they're way up by, a dramatic amount. 86, 89, 73, 112, 95, 78, 16, 28. This will come back up October, November, December. and they're going to round out the year and have a very beautiful year. But the expense line, if you don't know how much your business costs to run, then it really becomes difficult to be profitable, because that expense line is like a direct representation of like a license to overspend. If you don't know your expenses, you're writing a blank check every single time you go to the thrift, because you're just going to continue to buy stuff, or, you know, you're going to spend in places where, you know, maybe you don't necessarily need to spend today. But you need to know your expenses for your business every single day. For one, you need to know how much money you have to make to break even or turn a profit. But for two, you really have to keep an eye on it, because if their expense would have been, you know, $5,000 or $8,000 more, and they lost control of their spending this month would not have been profitable a month for them. And if you do that 12 times, you have a non-profitable year. And, you know, you do that long enough and they'll be liquidating their inventory to you.
This is, I think, the expense number. If you know how much your expenses are, you can immediately understand if an idea makes sense or not to implement in your business. So as an example, last month, their expenses were $10,000. So that's roughly $333 a day. So it's kind of easy to understand. They're at $900 in sales a day. So there's room there. But if you got to have an idea of like what you're like, I always say when I wake up, I'm like $3,000 in the hole. And I really have an idea of like what I'm supposed to do, because certain things will not be worth your time. You have to be focused on what to do, and really helps you stay focused on listing when you already think about what you start at, because your business has fixed expenses.
Sure. And they have fixed expenses, and then they have expenses that should be fixed that are hard to overcome and remain profitable if you kind of step over that line. So for me, like for eBay, the store, and one Whatnot stream, I want to spend $53,000 a month. That's what I want to do. But I've been buying more heavily in preparation for Q4 and in preparation for a couple other things I want to do on Whatnot. And my target to spend is $53,000 a month. Last month I spent $84,000. So like on paper, you look and you go, oh man, like maybe last month wasn't that great. But next month is going to be tremendous, because I have $30,000 worth of inventory that is going to sell and going to turn a profit. So like I scaled my buying last month, but like if you don't know what your numbers are, you have no idea what to buy and how much to buy.
Yeah. That's a really great point, because if you know your numbers, you know also that if you tie up, if let's say you, I'll give the example of a question I've never received before. And I mentioned this last night. One of our Patreon members started from zero, sold stuff around the house, reinvested the profit over and over and over again. And they have like $6,000 that they've spent now in their store, and it's worth like 20 something thousand. 6,000 they've spent, 20,000 listed, and they're doing okay to grow. But then an offer or a deal came up that cost $1,500 for one large collection, and then they've never purchased bulk before. They've only been buying one at a time. And the question was, should I dip into my savings to buy this $1,500 lot? And that was the only question. I didn't have any more context than that. And you had some follow-up questions for the person.
Yeah, I think that like whenever you do kind of step outside of your normal business operations to do like a bigger buy, I think it should almost be a deal of a lifetime. So like deal of a lifetime is subjective, you know, at different points in your business. At one time, a $2,000 bulk deal that I made was a deal of a lifetime for my business. And I ended up bringing back probably $20,000 or $25,000. It was a bunch of brand new vintage polo stuff that I got from the flea market for one of the storage buyers. I probably spent almost all of my money. It was $2,500, and it was outside of my comfort zone. But I made the buy and it paid off great. If you have a sourcing route, if your goal is 10 a day and you're comfortably finding 10 a day items, and these are just more of 10 a day items, I don't know if you should go out and spend the money unless it's a deal of a lifetime. If it's a deal that can dramatically change your business, then yeah, go out and make the purchase. add those items into the mix to be listed. But if it's just regular stuff that you're already buying at the store, I don't think it makes sense to go out and just spend more money. That's like a month's worth of sourcing done at one time just because the deal was presented to you. So, I get presented deals every single day, but unless it's a deal of a lifetime, I don't take it because I already get my allocated amount of items as is. There's no need for me to buy a bunch of other stuff just to sit behind all the items that I'm already regularly getting.
Trying to pull up the email from this gentleman. Because you said maybe if it's a once in a lifetime deal, then go for it.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of what that would equate to.
Yeah. And that's subjective based on where you are. I mean, now the deal of a lifetime for me now at this stage in the business to kind of sidetrack or deviate slightly from what we're already doing, which is inventory is coming in. It's the exact items that I want. It's the exact items that we know how to list. In order for me to do like a big deal on the side and kind of hold up this other stuff that I'm already getting, I'm still going to continue to buy it, but I'm already getting it. So there's a cost there too. There's a holding cost in that. It would have to be like a tremendously large and profitable deal at this point.
So I responded back with your question. He said that the $1,500 investment would give him a profit of between $3,000 and $6,000, $3,000 being conservative. So that's around a similar margin than what he's doing now. Yeah. Because that's like double or triple, but then it's more items at one time. So I don't know, once in a lifetime, it's a similar deal, just more items.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could look at it two ways. Like if it's a deal of a lifetime, if that 1,500 would have brought back 10 or 15,000 at that level, probably a great deal to jump on. Yeah. Or if you're going to get this $1,500 worth of items and then you don't source for 3 or 4 weeks, maybe that can help you out because then it'll alleviate a little bit of sourcing time. But this is the thing. If I have a stranglehold on my sourcing route, I'm not giving it up for 3 or 4 weeks. So you have to weigh that as well. Is it worth 3 or 4 weeks of me being out of the mix to buy these items so I don't have to source anymore? Or do I need to pass on this deal so I can keep the stranglehold on all of my suppliers, all the sourcing routes, on all the flea market connections, things like that? Because you don't want to drop off the map for 4 weeks just because you got a deal that you have to work through. That's my opinion. I would want to keep the flea market relationships open. I would want to keep all the relationships open unless it was a total deal of a lifetime that is worth, I guess, not showing up for 3 weeks on your normal route.
I guess you just nailed it for me. I think that is I hope Isaiah is here, the best piece of reselling advice ever. You can do whatever you want as long as it doesn't mess up your normal flow of actions. And if your normal flow of actions, if you keep doing it, you'll get better at it.
Right. And you can do whatever you want if it doesn't mess up your normal flow of actions.
Yes.
You can overbuy inventory until it messes up your normal flow of actions, and then you're out of business.
That's right.
You could do anything you want
until
it messes up your core business.
Yep.
You have the freedom to do so.
That's so good. Because it's so easy, because as people start working on different projects, families coming in for the holidays, they get sick. We have people that go from 15 items a day, get sick, 0 for 6 months, out of business.
Yeah.
I don't know what is happening to people, or they go on vacation, then they never come back.
Right.
They never list again.
So a lot of people here know my business. So like, what would you define my core business as for eBay?
The core business for eBay is $250 a day, and certain suppliers that bring it to you.
And certain brands, right?
And the same brands.
So would you advise me, like, how much of a payoff does it have to be for me to deviate from my core business?
I guess it would have to be a new business venture, larger.
It would have to be humongous.
It would have to be bigger than what $250 a day can produce.
Right, because deviation, like a synonym for that, is distraction.
Yeah.
How large of a deal or how large of an opportunity would it have to be to distract me and pull me away from the core business? And if your core business is 10 a day, how distracting does it have to be to pull you away from it?
Yeah, I guess that, like, well, I mean, let's say that you had a normal job, right? And you were looking to another job. Would you leave the job to make the same money at the next job? Probably not. There's
Right,
a
like
huge opportunity cost.
that other job might suck.
Yeah.
Like they say, the grass is always greener on the other side. And like right now, like I know I have a good thing going.
Yeah.
So I'm protective of it. And all these other distractions, I don't let it come in and mess me up.
Yeah.
And people have to be cognizant of that as well.
But maybe that's why people are so easy to jump ship, because what they're doing is not working.
Is it not working because they don't have a definition of what their core business is?
That's probably what it is.
I know your core business.
Yeah.
For you to do something outside of that, it would distract your core business and your business would suffer. Even your eBay or even your YouTube business, you have like core principles that you do on a weekly basis. And if you don't get those done, or if something distracts you from doing it, the YouTube business will suffer as well.
Well, think about how big of a disaster it would be if we missed podcasts.
Yeah, or just did them whenever we wanted to.
It just doesn't work because people, like, we have a subscribership that expects a podcast every week.
Right.
So you start doing something that doesn't relate to that. It doesn't take very long to break trust. Did you mention that last night?
Yeah, I was talking to Isaiah.
Yeah.
And he asked, how come I'm never late to the Tuesday call? How come I have 12 hours to do a Tuesday call sometimes? Because I said the Tuesday call is my priority on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Even though, and then people were like, well, sometimes you talk about like a guy going through the chipper, a guy getting hurt, people don't showing up, chippers breaking, mowers breaking, this and that, this and that. And I said, guys, that's every day. Like that's not one-offs, that's every day. But the Tuesday call is a priority. So on Tuesday, the core of my Tuesday is getting to that call and being there for as long as possible until every single question is answered. And anything, if I told you guys, hey, I'm actually going to go to Red Lobster with the wife on Tuesday, I'll catch you guys next Tuesday. That doesn't work for this business.
Yeah, that's true.
So like, is that payoff worth it? I'd rather my wife be angry at me than let down 2,000 people. We can go to Red Lobster tomorrow. We can go to Red Lobster before, the day before. We can go after.
Yeah.
But this time I have to get this work done.
That's like, to me, that seems obvious, but I feel like a lot of people aren't into that. A distraction comes up and that becomes their core.
Maybe so. But like, I wonder how many people like don't have like a definition of what their business is. And if you don't have a definition of what your business is, it's very easy to get steered off course. Like if I came in here and I say, oh, I sell on eBay, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
It's not good enough. Isaiah talks about he lists 27 a day, 27 shoes a day. If that is at your core what you do, everything else comes after that.
Yeah.
But if things are coming before, things are coming in the middle, things are going this way and that way, you don't have a strong definition of what you're doing. Like you think about Apple, what do they do? Like they're not out here, selling bottled water. Like Apple sells Apple, Google sells Google. They're not out here listing items on eBay. That's not their business.
So I think if we talk about your superpower, maybe you can get right to the core of what the business is supposed to be doing very quickly, and then don't deviate from that. Like Julie just asked how long it took us to get to the core. How long did it take us to get to the core? For this podcast, I think we came to the core before we even started. You determined the core, which was 1 minute. 1 minute.
1 minute. Like maybe I have a very good ability to look past all the stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is 1, 2, or 3, like getting my listings up.
Yeah.
And whatever after that. But as far as eBay is concerned, the only thing that matters is getting the listings up and shipping the items out. All the other stuff, you see past it, it doesn't matter. It's not important. It does not matter.
So this is the artist people. He calls this every day, something you do every day. And he is an artist. And when he had a girlfriend, he said, "This is really important to me. I want to be a great artist. So all I have to do is just draw and every day, and eventually I'll get there." So now he's in his 14th year of drawing stuff. So he's gone 5,615 days in a row of listing, which is kind of similar to your listing streak. But he did it even on the day his kids were born. But like people had asked him, like, was your wife mad at you that day? And he was like, no. She was like, "Did you get your drawing done today?" She was like, because she's on board. That's like his thing. It doesn't take the whole day.
Right. And you were still at the birth of your child, and you came on and did the morning call. I don't recall your wife being upset at that, because she knows the morning call for you is the core of this business of the Facebook group.
I wonder if you know it's the core, are other people on board? If you tell people it's the core, I think they just get behind you.
They have to be, or otherwise you separate and you find someone who is on board.
Yeah.
Like if someone is not on board with what you have to do as a priority to run your business, like something is wrong there.
Yeah. Now they can not be on board if what you're doing is not the core.
Or like Landon says, until they see it's a lie.
Yes.
Like, oh, are you really doing it, or are you screwing around for 2 hours at night?
Yeah.
Which one? And screwing around, there's a very low tolerance from spouses.
That's true.
Or from people that support you, because if you want people to support you, you have to have something to show for it.
Thank you for listening to the Resars podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. If you'd like to listen to the full episode, please check us out at patreon.com/the Resars podcast for all information, all our full-length episodes, over thousands of hours of coaching, and our Facebook mentorship group, which is $35 per month, just about $1 a day to help you get to the next level. We appreciate you guys. See you next time.